turning pages, night turning days. I'm tired of waiting. I gotta make it.
I really wanted to talk to you about, once again, the offseason, right? Cleveland's in a situation where we got to pay a lot of guys.
Yeah.
We got a question about, should we trade any of the guys? Should we run it back? What should we do, right? And I feel like you're the best person to ask when it comes to what should the Cleveland Cavaliers do this offseason? Who should we pay? Who would you trade for? And do the Cleveland Cavaliers need to make a trade?
You're making me GM?
Yeah.
Am I GM right now?
GM CHB.
All right. Well, first thing, what I would do is, and I know you're going to completely disagree with this one, because I watched your video, but first thing I do is keep the pick, because there's a guy that I really, really like in the draft. And hold on, I'm going to have to search his name up again, because his name gives me, like, brain damage every time I try and say it. But that is the Achai Agbaji guy. Have you heard about him?
I'm not familiar.
So he's a 20 to 21-year-old guy, projected to be about 12 to 16, but could be a guy that jumps. But because of his age, he's about a year or two older than most picks. He might slip down a little bit. But basically, he's a dude that averaged like 19 a game. Really, really, really good defender and terrific three-point shooter. Basically, if he was to come into the NBA, he'd be a guy that would, let's just say he got 20 minutes off the bench, would average you maybe 8 points per game, but terrific perimeter defense and about, could be like 37 to 39% from three. And I think that just is exactly what I think the Cavaliers need, other than a big man, is a wing guy that can, you know, be a good three-point shooter and defend the perimeter. 6'6", can guard shooting guard, can guard small forward. Drafting him then gives you the ability to, I think, trade Cedi Osman, which I think you'll be a bit happy with. I think drafting this guy, now you finally got that consistent three-point shooter off the bench that can also defend the perimeter. Cedi Osman's a dude that can definitely score more than this guy, but will be less inconsistent on the three-point line and be less, I don't think it will be as good defensively. And there'll definitely be a team out there that would love Cedi and would offer up at least a couple of second-round picks. And then doing this deal, you already save about $4 to $5 million, I would think. Because what does a pick 14 get paid? $3 million? 3.5?
I think so, yeah.
And Cedi's on about 7 to 8. So you save around $4 million from that move really right there. And then bring back Ricky Rubio. That's what I think. I think Rubio will be good to play somewhat during the start of next season. I think he'll be a really good guy to go out and get, because start of next season, his ACL, it would have been about 10 months since he last did it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's people have come back from ACL injuries in a lot less time. I mean, OBJ was training after like 7 months consistently with the group, with the Browns. I think Rubio would be good. I would not bring back Rondo, especially if you bring back Colin Sexton. And then, sign the other guys. Give Garland the max. Give Sexton the Jaylen Brown contract, the $23 million that jumps to 29 in like the 4th year or something. And yeah, that's probably what I do. Obviously, sign a big man as well. I think there's not a whole lot that I think needs to be fixed. Backup point guard, draft the perimeter defensive 3-and-D wing, and sign a backup big. Or you could reverse it and draft the backup big and go for a KCP in free agency, who I'd also heavily like to see on the team. But that's what I do. That's my whole entire TED talk.
That wouldn't be bad, man. I'm glad you found a way to get Cedi Osman out of here. God bless Cedi Osman, because like you said, he would be a good player for another team. I just don't think it's Cleveland right now. I just do not think it is Cleveland, and and also too, while my take was like that too with the draft take, I'm glad you said that, because when I watch Bobby's take on that, right? Because at first it was you when you brung up the fact that we was gonna maintain our pick, and then ironically, my YouTube just popped up with Bobby saying, his perspective on it, and I'm just looking at it. I'm like, you know what? the reason why I just didn't feel like we needed to pick. Not saying I'm not completely against it, but the reason why I wouldn't want it is because when you look at our team, we do have a lot of young guys. And unless you know somebody in that draft is transcendent, and I know it's very hard to do that in the draft because it's a guess. To me, I feel like the draft is one of the biggest guessing games because one of the highest scouted players who can go number one could be the biggest bust in the draft, yet somebody who went 60 could literally be one of the biggest gems in the draft. But in this case, in my personal opinion, I feel like the Cavs more than ever needs a productive vet, right? And I think last season showed, even though Rubio wasn't necessarily a star, Rubio definitely brought our team to bigger heights, right? When we lost Rubio, you see literally that second half, we kind of diminished. Well, we did diminish. We later got out. But I do think if we can get maybe a star guard, which is weird to say because, like I said, we got Colin Sexton and Karis LeVert, so one of them would have to move or some would have to happen. And then, but the most likely position, if we can get a star small forward, but that's easier said than done when you realize it is very hard to get even an average level small forward in the league. That's actually a small forward, like let's say 6-7 up and stuff. That's productive. It's hard to get that. And then like you said on the earlier, it's no stars right now that we see that look like they want to get out, you know? Like it's not one star, well, outside of like maybe Bradley, Bill, and Dame, but a lot of people argue, do we truly need those two players? Even Don, like, do we need a Donovan Mitchell? Because even if we were to get Don, we would probably have to clean house to get Don. Like, unless some catastrophic happened where he somehow diminishes his trade value by saying, I only want to go to New York or something like that. But even if he did that, what's the point of trading for him if he already essentially said he don't even want to be here?
Yeah.
So
that's what I'm wondering though. Like, you said there's no stars available. What would we trade the pick 14 for then? Because the way I see it, that Achai Agbaji guy, he answers too many needs. Because when I look at the three needs, I think, well, four needs, it's backup veteran point guard, backup interior defensive big, perimeter defense, and 3-point shooting. And I see two of those boxes ticked by this guy that we draft. And you save $4 million as well because you'd eventually trade Jetty Osman. I feel like this guy I think he could develop into being a better player than Okoro. I don't know. There's something about this guy, like the tapes and stuff that I've seen of him, the video, and just how he goes about it. And he's 20 to 21 years old. He's not freshly turned 19-year-old coming into the NBA. He's ready to go. So I don't know, what would we trade the 14th overall pick for? You know, Marcus Morris, he recently just became available. He'd be a really nice guy to have into the Cavs team, but his contract's big. It's about $18 million per year. I'd say he'd be worth the 14th pick, but he'd be a lot of money, and I don't know how we'd match up that salary.
Me personally, I do not think he would be worth the pick.
Yeah.
He would be a player we should be intrigued to get. Don't get me wrong. I just don't. You know, so, yeah, to your point, we probably would have to package another player alongside that pick. But I don't know. For me, I fear my biggest fear, and this is really another reason why I'm going off of that. I'm thinking financial, right?
Yeah.
Because we know, because with young guys, that means at a certain point, you're going to have to pay these players, right? And we extended we got them on the sign and trade, and then we extended them. We're more than likely going to pay Colin. We're probably going to pay Karis some money. DG they talking about they're going to try to extend him this season now that he's eligible to get extended. Assuming Evan Mobley keeps on this trajectory, he's going to get some money. We gave Jared Allen $100 million, right? And even if once Kevin Love gets off our books, with those 5 players I named, or 6 players that I named, we're strapped for cash, right?
Yeah.
So now we have to make really strategic moves. Like, we got to make really strategic moves, because that essentially, once we pay all those guys, that means that this is the core that you believe you can run it with, particularly in the playoff for the next 5 or 6 years. And I just don't think I don't think we're comfortable enough, right? I don't think our team has showed us enough for us to be that comfortable. Yeah. And that's why I fear it, because if we draft that's basically the stamp to me that we're locked in. And I just don't think, because I think, like you said, we got so many unanswered questions about our roster. Jetty Osman, do we need another big? Do we need a backup guard? Or are we gonna give Goodwin another year, another try? Moses Brown, are we gonna give him another try? Jetty Osman, are we gonna give him another try? Or are we gonna try to somehow get Kevin Love off the books? Or are we gonna do a sign and trade? Or are we gonna try to get him a cheaper deal? And then on top of that, we don't truly understand yet how impactful Kevin Love is to our roster, right? Like, the only player that we've seen how impactful they was is Rubio, but that's one of the reasons why I'm a little afraid, because if Rubio was that impactful to a roster to a point where we went from having we was basically number 1 seed to out of the playoffs in that span, like what is that gonna mean for the Cavs going forward?
That's Atlantis with that money.